Good evening. This is Adam Myers from the Institute at the University of Utah, and this is the podcast series entitled Finding Jesus in the Dark. And during this episode, we will address being single in the church. I'm pleased to have as my guests tonight Daniel Widener and Rachel Kruger. Please take a moment and introduce yourselves, guys.
Well, I go by Ray. I am in the Winder 2nd Ward right now, and I'm a dental assistant, just been living in Utah for like 4 years.
Yeah, so I'm Danny. I'm 29 years old. I'm a single Mormon man, and don't laugh, jeez.
I'm 29 too, I didn't want to say that.
Oh, okay, got you. Anyway, so I work full-time as a freight broker. If you don't know what that is, it sounds a lot cooler than it actually is. I get to argue with people on a pretty regular basis, so that's pretty fun. I think it's pretty much the main things about me. You know, I mean, I've been around the block with singles wards.
So, and you both have been members of the church your whole lives.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to take us back to primary really quick, because we all remember those awesome days when life was much simpler and more fun.
I'd like that too.
Yeah. Do you guys remember the little diagrams we used to draw with all the circles and the arrows for the plan of salvation, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
you know,
definitely. This
this is the spirit world, this is, the celestial outer darkness, all that fun stuff. So I wanted to ask you, where does being single fit onto that diagram?
I mean, it definitely does. I remember a diagram that I actually Google image searched this, thinking about this. It's a diagram that has like the whole plan of salvation, but like the top tier of the celestial kingdom, you have to be like temple married to get there. And I think that's something that single people like don't want to hear. You know, it's like you're still there, you're still like in the plan of salvation, but it's like, but that's like kind of the thing that no one really wants to think about, I think. But I do think it definitely fits.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously we need to have our temple sealing covenant made in the eternities, but even married people, they're not in the eternities yet.
Correct.
I don't feel like
Correct.
they're all ahead of us necessarily, just because, I mean, they're obviously doing great things, creating family and all that fun stuff, but I think we're all kind of in the same spot because we're on Earth.
That's a fair point. Yeah, that's a fair point. They haven't like finished the test yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're still in that Earth little circle.
We're still on the
We're
Earth circle.
all on
yeah.
Earth.
Yep.
We're all still unidentifiably wheat and or tear at this point.
Marriage is the goal and the expectation and the righteous desire for all of us. And the Lord rewards us according to the desires of our hearts. So why does it not happen for the good individuals of this planet?
First of all, I don't think it's everyone's righteous desire.
Fair.
And I think a lot of people get married unrighteously, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. And it can be a really, really good thing. But we say it's a blessing, and like certain people get married. And I don't know where I was going.
I think
I don't know.
I get what you're saying. Like, I'm sure everybody knows somebody who they wanted to get married and it wasn't really a righteous desire. They wanted to get married so they wouldn't feel like so bound by the law of chastity anymore, or they wanted to get married because they wanted to get out of their parents' house or something.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they got married. And that obviously it's not everybody, but I'm sure like most of us know at least one case like that.
But then there are tons of couples that it was their righteous desire,
Right.
and like it's great.
Right.
I think they're thriving, but I think that that's such a black and white thinking that, oh, you're doing good, you get to get married.
Yeah.
That's totally not how it works.
In my opinion, and this is just one man's opinion, but I mean, I have seen a bit, and like this is informed by talking to a lot of people, like throughout the church and just people in general. It's not just people in the church that are struggling with this, but I think that it's of our own choosing. What I mean by that is I don't think it's Heavenly Father's fault if you're single. Yeah, I mean, he might be like saying, hey, you know what, you got some stuff you got to work on. Let's not do this right now, But most of the time, I see a combination of a few things. I see that a lot of us are very selective And I don't think selectiveness is bad because it, you know, makes you feel really good when like someone picks you. But I think that it's coupled with like, I don't think the supply meets the demand of what people want. And I mean, and to furthermore, like I've never spoken with anybody like in private conversation who they said, well, I didn't want to go out with that person because I don't think they read the Book of Mormon enough, or I don't want to go out with that person because I didn't think they were spiritual enough or not like a good enough person. In fact,
I hear that.
Yeah, like I think every time someone's like, I don't want to go out with that person, they're such a good person, but just not for me. It usually comes down to the things that are typical with dating, typical concerns like, is someone physically attracted to somebody? Does somebody like respect the other person for, I guess, what they've done with their lives? Do they see this person realistically as a spouse who can, you know, kind of fill their needs and wants? And I mean, that's really what I see people kind of not dating or marrying somebody for, not because they were, you know, too spiritual.
It sounds like the agency plays so much of a factor. And so I want to make this a little bit more personal now, if you guys don't mind. What has been your greatest frustration in dating?
I don't know if we have time for that.
Give us the 1,000-foot view.
Oh, well, it's just interesting listening to you kind of go on about the things that people don't want in like a spouse or whatever like that. And it sounds so much just like men. You guys are you're the worst.
We're awful.
I'm just kidding.
Women made us that way, but we're awful.
Okay. Well, I mean, like, I don't know your guys' perspective, but oh my gosh, almost every conversation I have with the girls who are righteously trying to get married, it's all these guys are just so non-committal. They're looking, especially in Utah, you guys are just like looking for perfection. You think that if you like a girl, you have to automatically decide if you want to get married before you even will tell her if you're going to date her, which is ridiculous. I don't know, we want to get to know you. That's the point of dating. I don't know why being boyfriend and girlfriend is such an overwhelming concept, but like the men of Utah can't handle it, and it's kind of embarrassing. No, that's my frustration.
So what has kept you both going then, given, you know, our stat, we're all menaces to society, or almost there. Like, what has kept you guys going in the gospel?
What's kept me going is remembering what I'm a part of the church for, like why I wanted to be active to begin with. And, you know, really my commitment to the Lord, my commitment to the gospel does exist like independently of my love life. It's there because, like, you know, the Lord's there for you when no one else is. And I think that's it's a deeply personal thing. And yeah, at some point, you know, that's going to involve ideally a spouse for all of us. But I feel like what's kept me going is staying true to that. And I don't know, just trying to do the right thing, because I realize that my life is better when I do that.
Is your love life always going to be separate from the gospel?
So far, it's mainly all I've known, you know, like...
Because they always do that, you know, that triangle.
They do the triangle thing,
you're
yeah.
supposed to be all in one.
Yeah. I do think that, like, the triangle thing, if you're dating somebody and it's like you don't feel like you can get closer to the Lord dating them, then, you know, maybe that's something to...
A little bit of a red flag.
Bit of a red flag, yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, I think so.
No, and it's really good because, you can't rely on the other person for your spirituality. Mm-hmm. That's definitely not going to get you anywhere. But I do think eventually that's the point of a marriage. I mean, if that's where you get to with somebody, is creating a celestial home. And that's what kind of keeps me going, is thinking about just the fact that it's a covenant, and then I think about all the other covenants that I've made, and I really am grateful for those. I'm grateful for my baptism and the confirmation and endowments, and I don't think that marriage is exactly the same, where you can just like wake up one morning and be like, oh, I can go make this covenant. Like, you have to wait on another person, and that's what's frustrating about it. But I think it's still going to be, the same kind of joy that comes from that.
You both hit on it. I think it's important to remember the Lord in all of our struggles and all of our battles that we have. He's still in our corner, and the Lord knew us in the pre-earth life, knew that we could handle being in that upper echelon age, and that we could wait on Him for that blessing and still do good in the church. And so I think, and the brethren have talked about this too. Elder Wordland said, the Lord will compensate the faithful for every loss. And not that we're losing right now, but, there's time that, some people have had to make a family, and we've just got done with college, or we've just made some money, or been homeless, whatever. And so, but he is going to compensate us for our losses if we stay true to our covenants, like you guys said, and stay faithful.
Yeah. One thing I would like to add, just on that point about staying on the path, what keeps you on the path. I can't overstate this. For me, I think the biggest thing that's helped is not divorcing my development in other ways from spiritual development. I do believe it all kind of comes together. Like, earlier in my 20s, I had a really hard time dating, and no job, no nothing and everything. I would get it, right? I'd get it from the perspective of somebody trying to look to me as, could I really start a family with this guy? And I made a point to go to the gym regularly and eat better and go back to school, even though I was terrified at 25 to do that. And I can honestly say that the dating thing has definitely improved, but furthermore, I just feel like I overcame some seemingly insurmountable obstacle, and that has strengthened my faith a lot, because I'm like, well, I see what God can do if I put in the work. And I can't overstate that enough, because I feel like a lot of people that I've talked to have fears like that, particularly people who have had, I think, the worst luck with dating.
But you mentioned fear there. The next point I really wanted to hit hard was found in Mormon chapter 8. Let's turn there really quick. Oh, forgive me, I was wrong. Moroni 8. Moroni 8:16. Want you read that?
Woe be unto them that shall pervert the ways of the Lord after this manner, for they shall perish except they repent. Behold, I speak with boldness, having authority from God, and I fear not what man can do, for perfect love casteth out all fear.
Love and charity is a concept heavily emphasized in the gospel, and you guys touched on it a little bit. We need to have, obviously, to find a marriage, there needs to be love involved too. But I wanted to, kind of ask an off-the-wall question a little bit too, because in our dating history, maybe we have some trial and error in that dating. How do you guys equate love and charity for those we date and it doesn't work out? Exes, as we call them.
Realistically, I think everybody is going to make some kind of mistake, whether that be somebody leads you on, or I've definitely made my share of dating sins, against my fellow woman by doing things like, I let somebody on, or I ghosted them or something. And thankfully, I feel like I've grown from that to not be doing that anymore. But if I am that way and had been that way, then, why shouldn't I expect other people to be going through the same thing? So you can be mad about it, and I can be mad about it or whatever, but I do look back and I'm kind of thinking, if I'm still sharpening an axe over something that happened, 6 years ago, that's kind of crazy of me to be doing that.
I think over time, forgiveness does
Time
get a
helps.
hold
Time
of
helps.
us.
Yeah.
But in the moment, though, I'll ask you, Ray, is it hard to love people who are exes or who reject us?
So hard. It depends.
Yeah.
It can often be really mutual, and that's fine. Or like Danny said, you can tell very apparently, maybe it was a 50-50 kind of deal, or you can see that they weren't intentionally trying to hurt you, but sometimes they are. Yeah. Sometimes, people are abusive, or sometimes things can go really wrong. And I don't know if this is just a me thing or a girl thing, but it's really hard to find the balance of like, okay, well, I've got to move on. And something inside you is just like, okay, well, the only way to do that is to either hate them, hate yourself, or, I don't know, just be angry. And that way you can like make yourself fall out of love kind of thing. Then there's that battle where we know better because, our whole life it's, love your neighbor, patience, love, blah, 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 blah.
Love our enemies.
Love our enemies. Yeah, no, exactly. And so then it invalidates your feelings a lot. And I think that has been kind of a really hard concept for a lot of us to grasp. I think we forget that we go through grief. Like, it's a grieving process that we have to process. And we can't just love our way out of it, which I think we try to do. And that can be helpful, but maybe we need to go through some other steps first. I don't know.
I talking about like loving an ex or loving an enemy, I'm brought to a quote from a TV show that some dude like was in a feud with his dad or something, and he says, I don't like my dad, and he says, well, the good Lord said to honor thy father. Never said anything about liking him.
Them.
Yeah.
You can love people and not like them,
exactly.
For sure.
If somebody really broke my heart and they wanted to show me that they still loved me, I would kind of just prefer they didn't. I'd kind of just be like, the way you show me is like you leave me alone. Because it's like, just move on with life, that sort of thing. And
time heals all wounds.
Yeah, time heals all wounds. Like, I mean, I'm not against people being friends with their exes or anything. It's just, it's not something I particularly understand because in most of my relationships that, are over, I haven't really been like friends with them. Not enemies, but I haven't really been friends with them. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's okay for us to just like kind of peaceably go our separate ways. What's the Old Testament was like, what is it? I forget who it is. Jacob and Esau or something, where they're like, I'll go this way, you go that way, we'll just peaceably. I don't know. Some dudes from the Old Testament.
They did. The brothers, one tried to kill each other.
Yeah.
But they did have a moment of forgiveness in there too, and then go their separate ways.
Right. That's a good point.
And I don't know, I think if somebody feels they need forgiveness, then it's the right thing to do.
I think it depends.
I mean, it depends on how you forgive them, too. If the conditions are, you forgive me, can we date again? It's like, nah, maybe not,
I don't know. It's important to have those, good, peaceable feelings for them. I mean, obviously, they're not killing us like the people killed the Savior. Yeah. He was able to forgive those people who were killing him, but I don't think he's going to go, have lunch with those guys the next day either when he's resurrected. We all need to grow a little bit more, and I think that's the most important thing through all this is letting these breakups and these dumps and rejections being turned into growing experiences that can make us better. Yeah. Not, wallowing in pity or frustration and anger like you guys talked about.
Because it'll definitely, I think what I see a lot is you think you can love someone into making you a good person, and it makes you get stuck. I don't know if that makes sense. Or
could you elaborate a little bit more? Like, love someone into making you a good person?
Yeah, I've been in a relationship and talked to other girls who it feels like this person is mistreating me. I'm going to be the bigger person, so I'm going to not stand up for myself, and I'm going to be patient, and I'm going to be kind, and I'm going to listen to their feelings or whatever. And you think that, like I said, it makes you think that you're a good person when it doesn't make you a bad person. I'm not saying that, but it doesn't help you progress. It doesn't help anything. It just makes you a pushover.
That's a big deal.
And that's so hard, I think, especially younger girls when they're, just leaving home and trying to find that one person. They think that they can just love that person into all of their problems being fixed.
Yeah, it happens to dudes too. Yeah. I had a buddy who he hadn't had a lot of dating success, and he was dating this girl who she was, in few words, she could greatly benefit from professional help. And he was so, for lack of a better term, so desperate to keep her that he was like, I'll do whatever I can.
And that's so hard to figure out that balance, because you realize if you're ever going to make a marriage work, it's about helping each other. It's about patience. It's about, working through struggles and overcoming those kind of challenges. And that's, I think, why so many of us are just like in this weird limbo. We were like, okay, how much of myself do I give up?
Right.
Like, where's that right balance?
And there's that, we talked about originally, that fear, fear of putting ourselves out there and getting hurt. And I think that brings it back to what Mormon said in that verse about, perfect love gets rid of that fear. And, we're able to put ourselves out there and be vulnerable because we love that person. More importantly, we love the Lord enough.
I don't know who might listen to this that would get this. I hope a lot of people. I really hope a lot of people. But there's this Tyler Perry Medea play.
Stop.
Where I'm gonna say it. I love Medea.
Crazy.
This dude, his wife cheats on him and leaves him, and he's asking Medea, his grandma, I guess, for advice, and she says, get on with your life. Get up and get on with your life. And he says, well, it's not that easy. And she says, well, it's not easy, but it'll get easier when you learn how to love yourself. That, I think, is on par with what you said. It's not exactly the same thing, but it's true.
It's true. You do.
Yeah. When people
There's got to
say,
be love going all sorts of directions.
Yeah, when people say if you don't love yourself, you can't love another, I really think that's brass tacks what they're saying. It's like you have to know when somebody you may love doesn't love you back. And it's like when they, I guess, kind of put you in a corner to do things that make you not love yourself. Does that make sense?
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
I think so.
The council has concurred.
Let's stay on
Meeting
with love then.
Yeah.
We'll stay in Moroni. Let's go to chapter 7. And, love in our relationship. We're talking in this theme of having relationships and being single. Love casts out all fear. Moroni 7:45 tells us what else love is able to do for us.
And charity suffereth long, and is kind, and envieth not, and is not puffed up, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil, and rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in the truth, beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things.
So, regarding our relationships and our, single status, what sticks out there about loving those who dump us, those who we're in relationships with, those who, it just tries and fails?
I mean, yeah, it's similar, but charity, I think it's a little bit different for us to realize. We can definitely love, and we're meant to strive for it, and we can always strive for all of these things, but there is, in this plan of salvation, definitely room for error. And I don't know, all of these things involve Christ, because charity is not just love, it's the love of Christ, perfect love of Christ. And so I think eventually, yes, we have to have our own relationship with Christ, our own thing. But if we're ever going to have that celestial marriage or holy relationship kind of thing, it has to involve Christ, obviously.
Triangle.
And I think he's the one that is providing all those things. He's the only one that can think no evil. He's the only one that isn't puffed up and, can hope and bear all things and all that fun stuff. So we can obviously always try for it, but I don't think we can find it in another human being. So I think that's really hard for us to realize is no one's going to be perfect. No one is going to love us perfectly. Mm-hmm. But if they are striving to have a good relationship through Christ and using Him to love you the best that they can, then that's where...
It's so perfectly said, yeah. I was going to begin this talk, and we didn't get to it yet, but yeah, Elder Holland, where he says, some blessings come soon, some come late, some don't come till heaven, but keep walking, keep trying. Mm-hmm. That's what is ultimately we're never going to reach that perfection in this life, but striving, like you've said, to do that's what this life is all about.
Kind of along those lines, I was talking with some other sisters one time about the talk when President Nelson was talking about let the Lord prevail. Letting the Lord prevail is different in everyone's life. And yeah, maybe my blessings of marriage, I'm just not at that point of my life yet. I need to learn different lessons that maybe other people can learn in marriage or out of marriage or whatever. Like, I just have other things maybe that he wants me to work on, because I don't think that it's just that ladder of, okay, you get married and you're good to go. You're not done. Yeah.
It's not a lot. It's a circle. Remember? Yeah. Like our little map that we drew at the beginning. Yeah. It's all relative, and it's all going to happen in the right time for everybody. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're going to have to wrap this up pretty soon, but I loved this quote from Elder Bennett, and I wanted to share it and just get your guys' thoughts on it, again, in regards to our topic of singleness in the church. Our goal is perfection for all of God's children, he says, who will listen, accept, and live the gospel. So our goal is not just our own perfection, our own striving but everybody's. And so, yes, even those people who dump us and who are cruel and mean, we should still, after the fumes die down, and we
want the best for them.
You want the best for them, exactly.
Yeah, I mean that's really what I was going to say earlier was just talking about the Moroni 7:45 scripture, where I feel like people will hurt us, and to Ray's point, there are people who they can be abusive. They can be abusive. And I don't discredit at all that there are people who are, and they got to work something out. In my experience, most of the time, what has kind of drawn people apart, at least within the church, is more a sin of ignorance. And what is that saying where it's like you shouldn't attribute to malice what can be attributed to ignorance, and like someone, I don't know, just being dumb, not thinking things through when it comes to like relationships.
Yeah. Like they probably don't even know that they hurt you the way that.
Right. And
sometimes.
I mean, even if sometimes they don't, sometimes they do. But even then, there may come a time after your time's over where they truly regret hurting you and want to, I guess, live better because of that. And I feel like this bit about charity, it's like, what would Jesus do? Would he want them to be beating themselves up and never overcoming their flaws? Mm. Or would he want them to be like, okay, you screwed up, you did something wrong, but you can fix this and make it right and move forward. And I think that is at least what makes the most sense to me, where it's like, we really don't want to be, like you're saying, holding a grudge against these people.
Yeah, because, I mean, that defeats I feel like that defeats, if you believe in the atonement, it kind of counteracts that, because your anger against someone is not really yours to have, I think.
Vengeance, I mean, like, mine, thus saith the Lord.
Yeah, I mean,
don't
and
give
like
a reality check if you don't.
You can feel those feelings and everything, but they're meant for you to you're meant to move past those. But you can't decide for that person if they're going to progress or not.
Right.
That's up to them and the Lord.
Yeah.
We've addressed perfection in this chat. What is perfection? What will be perfection for you guys? Mm.
So I had a mission companion who I didn't particularly like, but he had a very good point about perfection. If you think of like a line graph where you have progress over time and progress is measured with the line going up, he's like, where does this line hit perfection? He's like, because the moment you stop that line, you see there's more above the line if there's, eternal progression, right? So the closest thing that we can think of to getting perfect is continually striving to do better. And striving gets, I think, overused a lot, so it kind of, we're numb to it. But like, really, it's kind of what it is. You really can't ever stop or turn back. Mm-hmm. You keep moving onward and upward. That's my bit on perfection.
Pretty much, yeah, similar idea. Like, what do you think you're taking the sacrament for? Like, that's the whole, I don't know, the term perfection in our age is not the same, I think, as it was meant in Bible times. But it's more I mean, it is the striving. Like you can be perfected. We can't go into the temple without like pure heart, clean hands. And I feel like if you are doing the best to your ability that day and you've kept your covenants and you've taken the sacrament, you've repented to the best of your knowledge, I think you can be like, I don't know if it's the right word, but the most perfect that Christ can ask of us in this life.
I would just encourage all of our listeners to keep on the path, strive for all that the Lord can offer you, and thankful for you two tonight for helping me. I would just encourage us all, keep striving for that perfection.